All right, so let's take a look at how we built the custom services. Okay, so starting all the way at the back, we have our role operations. This was actually one of the out-of-the-box ones, but they weren't calling it. It turns out that this out-of-the-box method actually returned all the roles a particular user had, but they never exposed it. So that's what gave me the idea to just create a custom REST services and expose this guy. And of course, once I did that, I realized, well, why not just go ahead and see if I can do some of these other ones. So anyway, that's how it started. So let's take a look at this. So this is our, remember the operations classes are going right to OIM and returning OIM objects. The converter converts the OIM objects to the JSON transfer objects. And this guy is basically the controller, the REST controller. Okay, so here's our interface. Okay, here's the role operations. Okay, a couple of weird things about these. You can actually look over here in the decompiled code and see I basically copied most of this from here and put it in the code. All right, so the way they go about getting the OIM user services is using this OIM service factory. So if you want to have 3 OIM services available, then you need 3 service factories defining each type of service that you want. And then in your private constructor, you're going to instantiate those services. So these are the OIM services, okay? The out-of-the-box OIM APIs that you're calling. Over here is where it's using the singleton stuff. So it defines itself as volatile. Private constructor, so you're pretty much forced to get an instance of this, and it's just passing you back an instance of itself. And so this is how they're doing it, so I've just copied that way to do it. Okay, now we finally get into the meat and potatoes here. Okay, so here's the method that was in the out-of-the-box code, all right, where it was just getting the user roles, or all the roles are for a particular user. Okay, so they never exposed it, so I did. So here's how they go about getting the role manager. So you use that service factory that you created here to get a service. If you try to get a different one, it won't let you. It forces you to get the one you defined up here. So I just followed the same process they were using. Okay, so here if we didn't get the role manager, these are some built-in exceptions you can throw. And so now once we get the role manager, we can say, okay, give me all the user memberships for this. And then we return a list of OIM roles. Okay, so if we take this, I think we can go in here. And here it is here. And it's I basically just copied this, right, just to get an idea of how this stuff was working. Okay, so again, it's returning OIM objects. Okay, so now this is being called by the converter. Okay, so in our converter, we have this method. This is the default method that's going to run if you just call the custom roles URL. So you can pass in the filter. So the RESTful services out of the box has this built-in skim filter thingy. So it can convert the filters, and we'll see the filters when we get ready to do the test. Okay, so the filter is basically giving us the user key. If we're not getting that, then we'll send an error saying it's an invalid query, and that's another built-in exception for this. And so now we can check the filter criteria, get the user key from the filter, because it's going to user key equals something is the way it's set up. All right, so if we don't get the user key, that's another exception. Okay, now we try and get the user. Okay, does the user exist? That's basically what we're looking for here. And if it does, now we can go get the roles for the user. Okay, now once we get the roles, we're getting back, of course, OIM roles. Right now, here's where we convert these to that role bulk. Okay, the role bulk 2 is up here, this guy. This is a list of roles that have been converted to these transfer objects. The bulk 2 holds a list of them, and the roll to is just a single one. So if we go back down here, now we start the conversion to convert our list. Okay, so you get roll to. This method is in this code here, and it's converting the OIM role to the transfer object, and then we add it to the list of transfer objects. Okay, they're doing pagination. This was all out of the box. We're not really needing any of that. So, and then we're just returning the transfer objects back to the controller. Okay, so here's the method that converts the objects to transfer objects. Okay, so here's another one that converts the roles. And okay, now I added some other methods that I wanted to use to get user roles by key, which makes a lot more sense than the one they had. Okay, and it's also calling the out of the box stuff to get it. And over here we have another custom method to get the roles by user for a category. So the catalog has a category, and so we take all the roles a user has, we look them up in the catalog and see if they have the category, and if they do, we return those. So I have a couple of different methods for that, to get them by user ID or get them by login or key. All right, so these are the custom ones. Now let's go over to the actual controller part. Okay, so over here you define an interface for your methods for your controller. Okay, so you define, the type of operation. It's producing JSON, of course. These are pretty much all getters. Okay, get all roles for a user, get roles by key, get key category, and get user ID category. So those are the 4 methods, and I added extra, I guess they call these resources, to the URLs. Okay, so if we go over here to where we implement the class, we define the base path for this. So it's custom roles is what it's going to be. And then within custom roles, there's the memberships by user key. And then you can get the categories by user key or the categories by user login and pass in the category name. Okay, so now one last thing I want to discuss here is the package naming. All right, so if you have to go take the EAR file and unwrap the WAR file that's in there for the services, and then you'll see that when this thing starts up, the application class is setting up all these package names that it's going to use to search for its annotations. So you don't necessarily have to follow any kind of naming conventions here, but these packages have to exactly match or it won't load. And you have to make sure you're using JDK 7, or well, at least the JDK you're using for OIM, again, or it won't load. Okay, so let's go ahead and build this, and then we'll come back and deploy it and test it out.